My name is Erin Colburn. I'm the pre-health advising coordinator for the College of Health Sciences at Boise State University. I am joined with Sunny Ewing from the Southern College of Optometry in Memphis, Tennessee, to talk a little bit about their program, optometry in general. And with that, I'll allow you to take it away.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you. As she said, my name is Sunny Ewing. I've been the Director of Student Recruitment at SCO for, it'll be 20 years in July. So I've been here a while. So I will share my screen with you right now just to show you a PowerPoint presentation about our school. And bear with me. All right, there we go. All right, so this is our campus right here. Southern College of Optometry is in Memphis, Tennessee. We're one of the private schools of optometry. We're located in the middle of our medical community. Memphis actually has the 8th largest medical community in the country. So there's a lot of patient care going on, not only on our campus, but around us too. We are a standalone optometry program. So we only have one degree program, Doctor of Optometry. Only one other school in the United States is like us, and that's ICO in Chicago. So we're the only 2 schools left that are private standalone optometry programs, and we've both been around for a long time. SCO has actually been around since 1932, so we're one of the older schools of optometry. Actually, the campus that you see there in that picture, the tall building is what we refer to as our tower. That's where administrative offices, classrooms, library, everything, labs, everything's going to be in that building. And then the building that is right next to it on the right side there, that's our clinic. That's the eye center at SCO, which is the largest optometric center in the country that is optometry only. So we have a lot of patient care that comes in and out of there. So moving right along, tell you a little bit about what optometry really is. Optometrists are the primary care doctors for the vision system. So pretty much like you go to an annual exam with your primary care doctor, and if you have minor aches and ailments, then they can treat you with medications and in office. But if there's something that is advanced and needs to see a specialist, then they would send you to like an oncologist or a nephrologist or whatever kind of specialist you would need to see. Optometrists would be very similar. They're able to treat a lot of diseases. They're able to treat a lot of different kinds of vision conditions, ocular disorders. They're able to take out metal from an eye. So there's minor procedures they can do within the office too. Right now, about 85% of all eye health care in the country is provided by optometrists. There are a lot of things that make optometry an appealing profession moving forward. A lot of people turn to optometry because they're interested in going into healthcare, but they are also thinking about personal lives and not wanting to be on call a lot and wanting to have set office hours so they can actually attend their children's softball games and, choir concerts and things like that. So there's a lot of things on the personal side that definitely appeals to them. It's also a very rewarding profession in what you can do in providing for your community. It's a profession that's legislated a lot by their states. So what you can do in one state is not necessarily what you can do in every state. Currently, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Kentucky, and Arkansas have passed laws that allow optometrists to use lasers. And there's more and more states that are actually progressing with that too. So it's definitely a profession that has a strong future because the scope of practice is increasing what optometrists can do for their patients. And it doesn't require that they be in major cities with huge hospital systems. And that's where you're going to find a lot of the ophthalmologists. And the big difference between what ophthalmologists can do and optometrists is the surgery aspect, but optometrists can do pretty much everything else. Again, it varies from state. I was told by the former president of the AOA that the only difference between optometry and ophthalmology in the state of Oklahoma is that ophthalmologists can do cataract surgery. Everything else an ophthalmologist can do and optometrists can do. So it does vary from state to state. As the scope of practice increases, you're going to see it's going to be able to help even more patients basically too. So one of the things that helps optometry have a strong future in addition to the scope of practice is the fact that there are only 23 schools. So it's not an oversaturated profession. You're not seeing a lot of new schools popping up like you do. I recently spoke to a school in Florida, and every school in Florida seems to have a med school these days. So unlike that, optometry, there's only 23 schools. So for example, Idaho doesn't have one, so you're going to have to go out of state wherever you go to optometry school there. The big difference on the educational side of optometry versus ophthalmology, ophthalmologists would go to med school for 4 years, followed by a 4 to 6 year residency. Optometry, it's a 4-year program, and the opportunities to get patient care is going to be incorporated in that 4 years, so you don't have to do a residency after you graduate. So therefore, you're going to see the majority of optometry schools are in major cities, so you have strong patient bases to learn on. And Memphis is one of the Memphis is where we're located, and we're actually a very affordable city, but it's also a very diverse city that is going to give you a wide range of different kinds of patients to learn on. We have one of the more affordable tuition rates. The tuitions that you see there are going to be tuition and fees, and they're going to be the ones that are listed as out of state. Since you're going to be going to a school that's out of state, this is going to be your out of state. We're a private school, so we technically don't have in-state, out of state tuition. Our tuition is just $38,712 with fees each year. So the fact that that is a private school and still very affordable like this, something we're proud of. We also have one of the larger classes, 136 students in our class each year. We like our class size because it does give our students 135 other sets of eyes to practice on before they actually start seeing patients in the clinic. So it gives them a lot of opportunities to see a wide range of different eye conditions, prescriptions, and things like that in their labs when they're practicing on each other. So they feel a little bit more prepared when they actually start seeing patients in the clinic too. So that's just a little demographics of all the different schools of optometry right there. Now, when it comes time to apply, I've yet to meet anyone that wanted to apply to all 23 schools. So they start thinking about what it is that helps them narrow down which schools they want to apply to. There are a wide range of different things. Obviously, location is one of the first factors, the schools that are closest to home. But again, you're not going to be going right now down the street regardless where you are in Idaho. So you start looking at other things too. Are you more interested in being a clinician, or are you more interested in going into research? If you go into research, you can work for a pharmaceutical company like Allergan or Alcon and do research for them in the optometry realm. And if that's your focus, we do have research at SCO. We have a summer research program you can participate in, do research with faculty, but it's not what we're focused on. We are very much known for our clinical program and making sure our students are the best clinicians when they graduate. So we do have a wide range of different kind of patient encounters that our students see at SCO, and the clinical aspects what we focus on. We also want you to graduate. We don't want you just showing up for orientation. I know a lot of times when we talk to students, especially during the admissions process, their main goal is just getting accepted to an optometry school. But our goal is to make sure that you're going to go to show up on orientation day and then make it through the 4 years, pass national boards. To graduate from SCO, you have to actually pass parts 1 and 2 of national boards. So you know that you're going to be able to be licensed when you graduate too. Over the past 10 years, 97% of the students who have entered our program have graduated from our program, and we're very proud of that aspect of it. We want to make sure that they're prepared no matter which state they go to practice in. Now, private versus public, I mentioned a few things that was very beneficial for us being a private school, but one of the thing I didn't mention earlier was the fact that our eye center is not only the largest optometric center, which is going to be a great learning resource, because they have so many patients coming in and out, it's a great revenue resource too. And because we have complete control over our budget, we're able to utilize that money and keep the total cost down. You can see our tuition rates listed there. The tuition you see here is just tuition only. Earlier, it was tuition and fees. But the states that you see there are actually the states we have contracts with. We don't give preference to students from those states. There's just a limited number of seats available. For example, Arkansas, the first 5 students accepted each year from Arkansas would get a contract seat where the state would pay a little over $19,000 of their tuition each year. So one thing I will point out, the tuition rates you see there are annual, regardless if it's how many semesters it is. And I say that because during your first year at SCO, you only have a fall and a spring semester, but your second, third, and fourth year, you actually have a summer, fall, and spring. We do not add additional tuition for the summer terms. So the tuition rates that you see there are going to be annual, regardless if it's 2 or 3 semesters that you're attending school there. Now, since you don't have contract seats with Idaho, we do have a lot of scholarships, and that's one of the things that draws a lot of students from especially out west to SCO is the number of scholarships we have. Typically around 75 to 80 scholarships are planned to be awarded to each entering class. They range anywhere from $1,000 to $20,000 per year. So you get one of the presidential scholarships, that's $15,000, $20,000. That's going to save you $60,000 to $80,000 off of the total cost of going to school right off the top if you get a scholarship there. Applying early is definitely beneficial in getting a scholarship. We award our scholarships as we're awarding admissions offers. So someone interviews and then we call to let them know that they've been accepted. We let them know in the same phone call if they're getting a contract seat, or if they're getting a scholarship, or if they're not getting anything at all. So they know what the total cost is from the moment that we tell them they've been accepted. So applying early when we're, with rolling admissions early on, we have a lot of scholarships. If they're waiting till like December to submit their application, there's very few scholarships available at that time. Service leadership, those are big factors. OAT scores, GPA, those are all things that we're looking at in awarding scholarships. They don't have to apply for them. We look at their application for admission to consider them for scholarships. So just encourage everyone that's applying to optometry school to be sure to include everything they've been involved in their application so that it can be a better representation when we're awarding the scholarships too. As you can see, we do have students from all over the country. 539 students enrolled this year. Only 73 of those are from Tennessee. So that just kind of shows you that we don't have a preference. We do have by far the largest applicant pool from Tennessee since we're here. But we actually have students from 44 states and 3 countries currently enrolled at SCO. So we want students that come. We want the best students at SCO, and we don't care where they come from. As you can see, we do have a pretty good representation from Utah. Some of them go to school in Idaho. So we do have a pretty good representation from all over the country there. And again, we don't give preference based on location. Now, one of the things that does draw a lot of the students to SCO, scholarships, obviously one of them, but the clinic that we have is by far the jewel of what we have at SCO. It is a great learning environment. The larger picture you see there with the blue lights is basically going to be, that's our advanced procedure suite. And it's set up so that there's an observation area so students can sit in and watch as the doctor's doing procedures on a patient. There's TV monitors set up in there so that they can actually see exactly what the doctor's seeing as he's doing a procedure. That is also the part of the clinic that our students learn how to use the lasers. Even though Tennessee is not one of the states that's passed laws to allow students to use lasers, they are fully taught how to use them. And in fact, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the geography of where Memphis is, but we're right where Arkansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee all come together, right at the Mississippi River. So we're literally, our campus, you can be within 15 minutes to downtown West Memphis or Marion, Arkansas. So there's actually been discussion of opening a satellite clinic over there for our 4th year students when they're doing their clinical rotations during their 4th year to have opportunities to have experience with patient care using lasers during their 4th year, since Arkansas is one of the states that allows that. So that's something that the pandemic kind of put a pause button on us for. And as soon as we get through that, that's something we'll be exploring a little bit more for that clinical option as well. So we, as I mentioned, we fully train them regardless of where they go. They're going to be able to practice the full scope of what optometry offers there. On average, our students see, by the time they graduate, between 2,700 and 3,000 patient encounters. So they see a lot of patients when they're at SCO. The pandemic last year put a little glitch in that. We had to close our clinic for the last 3 months before the students graduated last year. So there's no patient care for 3 months. And then when we reopened, it's been at partial encounters since then. So by the time our students graduated in 2020, there just almost 2,300 patients per student when they graduated. So they still saw a lot. It was just a little bit less than what we normally see. The last full year we had was 2017-18, because we also had a year where we had a water pipe burst, flooded about 1/3 of our clinic, and for almost a full year we didn't see patients in a whole floor of our clinic. So that also cut into the patient care, but usually 2,700 to 3,000 patient encounters by the time they graduate. And our students do start seeing some patient encounters during their 2nd year. We start slowly by sending them out to our schools and doing screenings at our local schools during the fall of their 2nd year. But during the spring of their 2nd year, they go through a process called preclinical checkouts. It's basically demonstrating they can do a full eye exam in a time setting. So they know it's not going to take 6 hours for them to do an eye exam. But once they pass that, they're cleared to actually start seeing patients in the clinic during the spring of their 2nd year. 3rd year, they have 3 days a week where they do rotations in the clinic while they're still learning some things in class, but they're more advanced things for diseases and things. But they are starting to be cleared to see a lot of patients during their 3rd year. 4th year is completely clinical. 4th year at SCO has 3 rotations, summer, fall, and spring. 1 semester will be on our campus, seeing patients in their eye center. The other 2 will be rotations at extern sites. And literally we have extern sites from Alaska to Miami and everywhere in between, Beverly Hills to Washington, DC. There's over 100 different extern sites out there for students to choose from. They'll do 1 at a private practice, and 1 extern rotation will be in an institutional setting. So let's say they're interested in pediatric optometry, they might choose a children's hospital. Or if they're interested in ocular disease, they might choose a VA hospital. So whatever their specialty interest areas are, then they can actually do their kind of mold their extern rotations around that. But we have over 100 extern sites set up, and they make their decisions during the summer of their 3rd year. So almost a full year in advance, they know where they're going to spend their 4th year. But they see a lot of patients during those rotations. When they are on our campus doing their rotation in the eye center, they'll have pretty set schedules. So an example would be Monday might be adult primary care, Tuesday's pediatric optometry, Wednesday's ocular disease, and Thursday may be vision therapy and low vision. Friday may be contact lens. So when they show up that day, they know that that's what kind of patients they're going to be seeing. They know all day long they're going to be dealing with pediatric patients. So it gives them a wide range of different kinds of patient encounters too. So not just a large number, but a wide range of different kinds of patients they're going to be able to see. We are located in Memphis, and I don't know if you've been to the South before, but we're not a healthy group of people down here. We don't like to eat healthy food or exercise. We like to fry everything. So that's going to give you a lot of patients in our eye center that have high blood pressure, diabetes, a lot of other health conditions that actually affect the vision system too. And actually a lot of patients that come to see us don't see other kinds of healthcare providers. They are the kind that I'm not sick, I'm not going to the doctor, or they're afraid of doctors or whatever the situation. So when they come in, they may think all they need is a pair of glasses. So it may be you as a student that's going to be actually telling them, for the first time that they do have high blood pressure, diabetes, different kinds of health conditions. It's going to be you making that diagnosis for the first time. So it's an important part of the overall healthcare. We do have the routine patients, especially during the adult primary care rotations coming in, which is clear 1 or 2, here's your prescription. But that's not going to be as common as it is for the ocular disease patient base. We also see quite a few pediatric patients. There's a program called Infant C out there. It's infant, then SEE. It's a program that's been around since around 2003. It allows children to have a free eye exam before their first birthday, because a lot of developmental issues can be diagnosed in that first year of their life. The person that actually started that program, there was actually 2 doctors that joined in to start it, but one of them still oversees the program nationally. And he is also the one of our staff doctors. So he makes sure we see a lot of pediatric patients. His name's Dr. Glenn Steele. So you definitely see a lot of pediatric patients as well as ocular disease. But overall, you're going to see a wide range. Vision therapy is something very popular on our campus too. If you're not familiar with vision therapy, it's basically exercises you do with your eyes instead of having to have surgery. It's working with patients that have traumatic brain injuries and helping them focus, relearn basically focusing. Even there's a specialty area within that called sports vision, working with athletes to kind of help with different aspects of it. If you're familiar with Steph Curry with the Golden State Warriors, he actually uses vision therapy. And there's a lot of videos online that shows him using that, and he credits that for his ability for peripheral vision and helping him with defense and everything. So there's a wide range of different things that you can do within optometry that's not the traditional, which is clear 1 or 2, here's your prescription. You can delve into a lot of different areas, and contact lens alone, you can actually go into specialty contact lenses that you can work with too. So there's a lot of different things, and you're going to see all of those aspects of it in our clinic. Now, the rotation that I mentioned earlier during the 4th year that our students do for adult primary care, some of those days that they're assigned to adult primary care, they'll actually be in our clinic seeing patients there. But we actually have 2 external clinics that we want them to rotate through as well, because it gives them a different kind of patient base in each setting. So they're not seeing the same kinds of patients, but it also shows some different practice modes, which can help them when they're establishing their own practice. If they want to set up a private practice on their own, it kind of gives them experience with those different kinds of practice modes too. One of them is called Focal Point, and it's basically set up in a small boutique setting. So it's more upscale frames, but we also have a dry eye center there. So a lot of our patients that come in for specialized dry eye treatments go over to the Focal Point. We also have a clinic at the University of Memphis. We have a very close relationship with them. We're the primary care providers for all of the vision for all of their athletic teams. So when you're doing rotations there, you might see some of the athletes or coaches, but you might see general population from the campus too. And that's typically, when you're on a college campus, going to be a lot of contact lens, that type of patient encounter. So you're going to see a wide range of different kinds of patients in each of those settings there too. Now, in the normal world, when we're not all doing things virtually in a pandemic setting, we actually have classes in our classrooms. The top picture you see there is going to be our north classroom. The wall at the end of the room is actually removable, but there's another classroom that looks just like that on the other side. And when you open it up, it's a really large space that everybody on our campus can be in there at the same time. But it's filled with a lot of technology. One of the big things that being a program called Panopto. Do you guys have Panopto there? No. It's a program that actually records all of our lectures along with the PowerPoint presentations, and they're saved for the entire 4 years that our students are in school. So, you know, while you're going through class during your first year, it's a great resource to go back and review before you take a test, or even just to review your notes after class, make sure you wrote things down correctly. But when you get to your 3rd year, that's when you take part 1 of national boards. And as you're studying for boards, you may be studying a subject. You can put that topic in the search engine and it'll tell you all the different lectures that had that discussed. So you can go back and rewatch whatever you're needing to watch for review sessions there. So Panopto is actually a very strong resource for our students throughout the 4 years they're in the program. And we make sure that they have all the technology. We do a lot of other things to help prepare them for boards too. We have a program called KMK. All of the optometry schools, I think, use that as well. But we just, because all of our faculty members are optometrists, they're learning from optometrists in every class that they're in. So they're able to kind of connect what it is they need to know for national boards, you know, whether it be 2 or 3 years later. So definitely helps in preparing for boards there too. Now, I talked earlier about being involved in student organizations and all the things that can be helpful in getting scholarships. We want to give you the same opportunities to participate in different ways when you're a student at SCO. And we have over 20 different student organizations. All of our students are members of AOSA, which is the American Optometric Student Association. It's the student version of the AOA, basically. And how involved they are is up to them. But for the most part, we have a very active student organization with the AOSA. Actually, Arkansas was the last law to pass the laws for laser privileges. And several of our students went over and testified in front of the Arkansas legislators to help get that law passed. So very active on the political side. Politics isn't your thing. We have all kinds of other things. We have service organizations. Our largest student organization other than the AOSA is going to be SPOSH. And that's Students Volunteering Optometric Service to Humanity. And basically they do about 7 or 8 mission trips each year. Each trip's a week long, and they go to South and Central America and see patients that don't have access to healthcare. And on average, they see about 1,000 patients in each of those trips. So service is definitely big at SCO. It's actually a component of our curriculum for our students to graduate, to be active in one of the service projects. We also do that more locally with remote area medical. We go to the Appalachia area several times throughout the year too. So there's different ways to get involved that way. We have student organizations that specialize. If you're interested in working with a patient that has traumatic brain injury, we have a student organization called NORA. If you're wanting to have a private practice when you graduate, we have a private practice club that has speakers come in and talk about ways to open practices and things, things that are important to do and not do as you're trying to establish your own practice. Contact Lens Society, Sports Vision Society, all those different things you can get involved in as a student at SCO. And one thing we also do, encourage our students to get involved in going to national conferences too. And one of the things that we do to help them with that is set aside $20,000 each year as travel grants. And our SGA distributes them to students who are interested in attending national conferences. So we do a lot of things to help our students participate nationally as well. Now, our students at SCO graduate on average anywhere from $130,000 to $135,000 in student debt when they leave SCO. So that's an average student debt, but as you can see, it's an investment in their future. 24 years in a row, we've had 0% default rate. So that shows that our students are keeping their student debt down, but more importantly, they're finding those good jobs when they graduate that allow them to pay back that student debt too. And the Hayes Center for Practice Excellence is a great resource for them. It's a career counseling service. So, they start during the first year kind of helping them, our students hone in what it is that might be their interest. And by the time they get to their 4th year, they're helping them decide if they want to do a residency. You can do a 1-year residency after optometry school if you want to specialize in a specific area. Specialize is not the technical word, but that's my word. You don't have to do a residency when you graduate. You're fully trained after 4 years of optometry school. So if you're more interested in going straight into the profession, they're also going to have a placement service to help you find a job. I just talked to one of our 4th year students about 3 weeks ago, and I asked him how it was going. He said he'd already been offered 2 jobs, but this week that we're in right now is when they're making matches for residency. So he was waiting to see if he matched for a residency before he decided if he wanted to take one of those job offers. So there's definitely a great opportunity out there in finding the jobs. It's just finding the one that's the best fit for you. The Hayes Center will also go over contracts. So if you're offered a job, they'll go over the contract with you and even make suggestions of, maybe you're underselling what you're worth and you should be asking for more money, or maybe you should ask for more vacation days or whatever. They'll kind of give you suggestions on what you're looking at. They'll help you develop business plans if you're wanting to buy a practice or start your own practice. So there's a lot of resources. And when you graduate, it's available to you as a student, as a graduate as well. And it's a free service that's available to you since you're an alum. So definitely great resources with the Hayes Center. I mentioned an average graduate of SCO has around $130,000 to $135,000 in student debt. This chart shows you a graduate going into private practice with $130,000 in student debt and paying off their student debt in 10 years. It's a very conservative chart. It's since it's private practice, you're having to establish yourself. I know a lot of our graduates that make well over $100,000 right out of school. In fact, I know some that make over $200,000. So you can definitely make above that. We just wanted to be conservative with the numbers when we showed you this, so that you can still say, okay, I can pay off the student debt and I can still live comfortably too. I also know a lot of our graduates that pay their debt off in 5 to 6 years. It doesn't take 10 years. You can take up to 20 years, but we want you to do it before you have to actually retire. So this chart just shows you that it definitely offers you the opportunity to have a comfortable life while you're paying your student debt off. One of the things that helps our students keep their total costs down is the tuition's obviously low, but the cost of living in Memphis is usually among the 3 cities in the country that has the lowest cost of living. So that factors into the total cost as well. We don't have campus dorms. Students get to optometry school. Very few want to live in a dorm. So we have about 60% of our students live in an area called Mud Island, which is right on the Mississippi River, surrounded by some $1 million homes. There's some more affordable homes there too, but there's some really good neighborhoods there. All of the apartment complexes are gated, but a 2-bedroom apartment there is going to be anywhere from $1,000 to $1,400 a month, depending on floor plan, if you're facing the river, things like that. So as a 2-bedroom apartment, $1,000 to $1,400 with a roommate, you're looking at about $500 to $700 a month in rent. So very affordable, and you're living in upscale luxury apartments. You can go down to South Haven, Mississippi, which is about a 15-20 minute drive, get a 2-bedroom apartment. And that's going to be more in the $800 to $1,000 range. So $400 to $500 living down there. We are in the Midtown area, and there's a lot of new apartment complexes and new things going on in our area. So there's actually opportunities to actually find things within 5 minutes of our campus. Mud Island's actually less than 10 minutes to our campus too. So that's another thing that's appealing. Memphis also offers a lot of things to do. And no matter which, health profession you're going to be busy as a student, but you're also going to have time to have a life. And you just want to make sure you enjoy the city as well. And Memphis offers a lot of things. If you're in the music, we are your city. We have live music in all kinds of different sizes of venues every night of the week. We have the Levitt Shell is a free concert series, but if you're wanting to pay the big bucks to go see Taylor Swift or someone like that, we have the FedEx Forum too. So we have all kinds of different music venues in Memphis. And when the concerts aren't going on, we also have an NBA team playing in the FedEx Forum. We have a minor league baseball team, soccer team. So sports is big here as well. We also have the Orpheum Theater. If you love museums, Memphis has a lot of them, and a lot of them are music related, but my favorite and the largest museum in Memphis is going to be the National Civil Rights Museum. Highly recommend seeing that. I've been 5 or 6 times, and as soon as we're able to go back, I'll go back to it. I love going there. So there's a lot to do in Memphis, and it's not, for example, I told you Levitt Shell's free. Some of the Grizzly games, most of the Grizzly games have $5 tickets for the upper level on this. So you can go see an NBA game for $5 sometimes. So definitely very affordable to live here and still have a good life too. This is a profile for our current first year class. Typically, we have about 700, 750 applications. Last year, we had 812. As I mentioned earlier, our class size is 136. Average GPA is usually around a 3.6. Average OET score is usually around a 3.30. So if you have around those numbers or above, you're going to be in competitive position. If you have below a 310 on the OET, we definitely recommend retaking. A 300 is the lowest OET score we've accepted in probably 25 or more years. I've been here 20 and definitely since I've been here. So we definitely recommend if you score below a 310 to retake the test. We don't require a bachelor's degree. However, we are looking for anyone who's applying without a degree to have above average GPA, above average OET scores. A lot of times if you're applying as a non-degree, it's usually a semester away from graduating, but that doesn't have to be the case either. But just know that we're looking for you to be at or above the averages when we look at non-degrees. And this is our board passage rates. I told you earlier that we do a good job preparing our students for board passage rates, and we're usually about 10 to 12 percentage points higher than the national average on first-time test takers passing the boards. And that's our goal, is to make sure our students pass the first time so that they're not having to pay and study and study and study for what is already a stressful test. So we do what we can to help prepare our students for national boards and make sure they're able to graduate on time. These are our prereqs, and they're very similar from optometry school to optometry school, but SCO's, every school is a little bit different. So for SCO, we require a full year of general biology with labs. Now that can be zoology, anatomy, physiology. Most biological sciences except for botany or ecology can be used for that requirement. And then we also require a full year of chemistry with labs and a full year of physics with labs. We require one course in microbiology with a lab, but bacteriology with a lab can be used as a substitute. We only require one semester of organic chemistry with a lab, but there's a whole section of organic on the OAT. So having that second semester is a great way to prepare for the test so that you have a higher score. But if they only take organic one, that's all we require. And then we also require one course in biochemistry, and that's the only science prereq that doesn't require a lab with it. The only thing that can substitute for that is molecular biology. In addition to the sciences, one course in calculus, one in statistics, one in general psychology, full year of social science, full year of English. We do accept AP credit. So if you have AP credit, we're in good shape there. And we don't care what you major in. Probably about 70% of our students have something biology related because the prereqs match up pretty well for the degree programs. But the others come from a wide range: business, psychology. We get a lot of psychology majors because of vision perception, and they're introduced to optometry through that. Second languages are always good when you're going into healthcare. So as long as you have those prereqs, you're going to be good. If you have the opportunity to take a elective, anatomy, physiology is always highly recommended. You have a lot of anatomy during the first year of optometry school, so helps that transition be a little bit easier. But again, if all you have are those science prereqs right there, you'll be prepared for our program. Now, OptomCast is how you start your application with us, with optometry schools in general, and it opens around July 1. Every school's got a different deadline. Ours is March 1st, so we just finished we're just finishing up our applications, actually. The essay transcripts and letters of recommendation are all sent to OptomCast. When they send transcripts, you have to send transcripts from every school that's awarded you credit. So if you've taken summer classes at a community college, or maybe you transferred from a different school, you have to reach out to each school to send their official transcripts to. Letters of recommendation, OptomCast accepts up to 4. We only require 2 at SCO. So you want to check with each school to make sure you're getting every school's requirement. But as long as you submit 1 from an optometrist and 1 with a pre-professional advisor or a professor who teaches biology, chemistry, physics, as long as you have those 2, you're good. But if you want to submit all 4, we'll look at all 4 as long as those 2 are included with that. SEL supplemental applications actually on our website. Some of the schools have it as a link that's on Optomcast. Ours is on our website, and it literally takes 5 minutes to complete. It's very short, but it's something we have to have for you to be considered for an interview. And then the state residency certification only applies to the students coming from those states that have contracts with us that I mentioned earlier. So we'll talk about the admissions test. The OET is the optometry admissions test. It's the test we have a strong preference for. It's the test we use most frequently. It's what most optometry students take. We have a long history of understanding how the scores translate into being a good candidate for our program. But it's an expensive test. It's $490. B, this past year with the pandemic, a lot of the testing centers closed down and testing dates were canceled. So we started looking at options, and we actually accepted applicants this year that had above a 3.5 GPA who submitted the MCAT and GRE. So if that is the case and anyone's interested in applying, there's a little bit more stricter things that we're looking at, especially in transcripts. MCAT translates a little bit better with the OET. It's just a different scoring system, but it's a very similar test. So that's not as difficult, but the GRE doesn't test on sciences. So we're looking at a lot more specific things with grades and those kinds of things when we're considering an applicant that's taken the MCAT or the GRE. For applicants that do take the OET, again, it's still by far the most popular, especially for consideration for scholarships. That's one of the big things that helps us too. It's $490 to take the test, to register for the test, and there's 23 schools. They can mark when you're applying, you can actually mark all 23 schools. So it's not going to cost you more than $490. But if you only mark 2 or 3 schools, but then decide to apply to 5 schools later, then you have to pay them another $40 for each school. So I just tell them to mark all 23 schools when you register. It's when you submit the Optomcast application, you decide which schools you want to apply to. So save yourself money and just submit register all of them, mark all of them when you register for the test. Now, the admissions process at SCO, I'm going to tell you how we usually do it, and then I'm going to tell you how we adjusted this year because we don't know how exactly if we'll be back in full system this fall. So just to give you an idea. Typically, when an application has been verified, the transcripts have been verified by Optomcast, they change the status to verified. As soon as that's verified, we have a supplemental application, OET scores or test scores, the student can be considered for interview. And then at that point, we would email and say, we'd like to invite you to campus for an interview. And most of our interviews are held on Fridays. Applications open July 1. We usually start interviewing in early August. So again, earlier they get their submit their application and everything, the earlier they can get in for an interview. So at that point, they'd schedule an appointment to come for their interview. The whole day is about 4.5 hours. The interview day starts with an interview with one faculty member who knows that applicant's name and home state, and that's it. We do a blind interview. We don't let them know anything about the candidate other than that. And the interview lasts about 45 minutes to an hour. And it's basically just a conversation about what led to their interest in optometry, what their career goals are, what kind of exposure they've had to the field. And then it's a two-way street. We want them to interview us too and find out if we're a good fit for them just as much. So we open it up for their questions as well. And then after that interview, again, 45 minutes to an hour, then they have a counseling session with someone in the admissions office. And that's when we review things in the file, making sure they understand that they're still missing biochem or any of the prereqs are still missing. We let them know that. And then after that, they go on a tour of the campus, and we let one of our second or third year students show them the campus. So they have the opportunity to not only see our facilities, but also get a good idea of what it's like to be a student, what the transition's like to go into optometry school, things of that nature. The tour lasts about an hour and a half. And then after that, we have lunch. And at lunch, we have financial aid office talking about student loans, debt management, all the money questions that may come up. And we also have some students there talking about living in Memphis, how they found roommates, how much it costs, different things like that. We have a lot of resources to help students find roommates. So again, 4.5 hours, they're out of there. Usually within a week, they get a phone call from us letting them know if they've been accepted, and with scholarships and things of that nature. They're accepted before November 1st. They get 8 weeks. And then as you can see, the closer we get to filling the class, the less time they have to make that decision. So another benefit of applying early is they get more time to make that decision. Early on, we know there's a lot of applicants early on that are interviewing at multiple schools. We want to give them plenty of time to actually get to those interviews before it's deposit time. So we give them a little extra time up front. That's how we usually do it. And we do that still this past year. It's just we had to do a lot of it more virtually. So the interview would actually be a counselor calling and setting up a virtual presentation similar to what we're doing here, and just going over their file, answering questions for them. And at the end of that counseling session, we would set up their interview with one faculty member, and then we'd work around their schedule. They would log on for the interview with a faculty member, usually within 3 to 5 days after the counseling session. And then typically that usually lasts anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the interviewer and how many questions the applicant has. And then after that, within a week, they would hear from us. And then the same deadline deposit deadlines that we have there would be the same situation. But after they were accepted, we would also offer the opportunity for them to come to our campus and tour if they wanted to get a tour of our campus, since they were doing everything else virtually. So still everything happened. It was just a different kind of process, and a lot more virtually this year. But we did have on-campus tours available for not only our the candidates who were interviewing, but prospective students. We do have those available if anyone's interested. One of our graduates from 2020 actually came from Boise State to tour the campus about 1.5 years before she actually came to SCO. So yeah, if anyone's interested in coming for a tour, we do have those opportunities available. Things that can make an applicant competitive: applying early is definitely the number one thing. Just getting everything in. I always recommend trying to get things in July and August. Get it done before you head back to school in the fall, and you don't have to worry about doing that while you're studying for class. Can also get you in for an earlier interview. But if they're applying in the fall sometime, they're still in a competitive time frame. It's just the closer they get to the application deadline, a lot more competitive for a few seats. So it makes it a little bit easier and less stressful if they apply early. One of the things I do recommend on letters of recommendation, I've been recommending that they actually meet with the people that they're going to ask to do their letters of recommendation during the spring before they apply. So they have the opportunity to actually get to know and explain their story, but also just ask, will you do this letter of recommendation for me? And let them know that they're going to, whoever's doing the letter of recommendation will be getting an email from Optomcast, not them specifically. So just kind of go over the time frame with whoever they're asking to do letters of recommendation for them to. Taking the OET early, but not taking it till they're ready is a key. Most students will be taking their OET score the same time frame that they're submitting their application. And for most students, that is the summer between their junior and senior year. So what I recommend is finishing out the spring semester, giving themselves a full month, 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever time they feel like they need. Get a good review guide, set aside study time every day to study for the test, and then take the test, set the test date, take it. And if they take it in the summer and they do well, can get in early for an interview. But if they don't do as well as they want to or need to, it's going to take 90 days before they can take the test again. And so that still keeps them in a competitive time frame. So if they've taken the test in June and they need to retake it, the earliest they could retake it would be September. That would still be in a very competitive time frame. So typically study for the OET, crack the OET destroyer, lots of different review materials out there, Kaplan review guide, practice test, Chad's videos, all things that can be helpful in preparing for the OET. Just make sure you're prepared when you go in. SCO likes to see students shadowing at least 3 different optometry offices. And if you shadow at least 3 different offices for 15 hours in each of those, 45 hours is going to be a good amount of experience to kind of give you a foundation of understanding what optometry is. So if you're shadowing different doctors in different offices, you're seeing how different doctors do things differently. You're seeing different patient bases, how offices run differently. There's different modes of practice. You can go to a private practice. You can go to a commercial optometry office like Lens Crafters, Walmart, those types of practices. Co-management, where there's optometrists and ophthalmologists working hand in hand. Hospital settings, a wide range of different kinds of practices you can shadow too. So about 45 hours overall, spread through at least 3 different offices is something that we like to see. Ask questions when you're shadowing too. Scope of practice, where you're practicing at, or where you're at currently, just kind of get an idea of what laws are going on there. All of those are going to be things that are helpful for you. You want to talk to each of the schools you're interested in applying to as well. There's the contact information for me, sewing@sco.edu. I'll always encourage students to go to our website and submit a request for information. The direct link is explore.sco.edu, hashtag, or not hashtag, /inquiry form. That'll get you information. We also have a monthly webinar series, and each month is a different topic. We just had one a couple of weeks, or last week actually, that was about preparing for the OAT. It may be 1 month, it may be a panel of students talking about life as a student. One month might be about the curriculum, clinic care. So each month is a different topic. You can get links to it on our website, but if they go to the inquiry form, they'll be entered into our database, and we'll send an email each month letting them know the link to register for it too. But they're all free. So even if they don't come to SCO, it's definitely good information. It can be helpful later on too. We're also on all the social mediums as well, and always encourage students to visit our different social mediums. Our website has a lot of different things. Student testimonials, videos about why they chose optometry, why they chose SCO, life in Memphis, students blogging, especially during the pandemic, has been helpful too. So I'm going to quit sharing and come back to you. I think I did that right. Did I do that right? All right.
Good. Does anyone have any questions for Sunny? No questions. Okay, I do. So
Okay.
when so during this, you mentioned observation hours, and 45 hours is a great number. It's really hard during the pandemic. What do you recommend students do?
Right. One of the things we've been encouraging students, because from state to state, what optometrists are allowed to do is even breaking down even more. So what we've encouraged students to do is call and talk to the optometrist and see if they can shadow. And if they say, no, we're not allowing shadowing right now, ask if they can set up a time to interview them, whether it be virtual or over the phone or whatever, but just interview them about what's going on in the profession. What have they enjoyed about optometry? How has the pandemic affected the profession from their standpoint? Have they had to make a lot of changes within their office? Are they temporary changes, or they see those changes being permanent and they're not going to go back to the way things were after we're through this? So just talking to the doctors can be helpful in that kind of setting too. There's also a lot of journals out there, online journals about optometry. So just reading those and being familiar with what's going on within the profession. Early on in the pandemic, one of the things that they noticed was a common trait early was a lot of the patients were having pink eye. So it was being traced back. There were certain patients, contact, obviously it's going to, contact with that too. So just talking to the doctors and reading as much about the profession is going to be helpful for them.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or anything?
I've got one. I might have missed it in the presentation, but is there like any sort of penalty for students who may take the OAT multiple times?
You did not miss that. I forgot to mention that. it varies school to school, but most schools will take the set of scores with the highest academic average. So the OET is broken down to academic average, which is the total score, total science, which is the average of all the sciences, which is one section in organic chemistry, one in biology, one in physics, and one in general chemistry. And then you're also going to have reading comp and quant reasoning. The academic average is the score we're looking at most significantly. And if they take it more than once, the set of scores with the highest academic average is the set of scores we're going to use. I do know there is at least one school that uses the most recent scores. So I've had students have like a 300 and they want to retake, but they've already been told by that school 300 is good enough, but they want to try to retake to improve their chances with us. They're afraid to retake. So it really comes down to a lot of things in that. You can only take the OET 3 times before you have to have special permission to take it again, though.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
3 times. Yeah, if they take it 3 times and they're still not in a competitive range, they have to have special permission. And it's usually one of the optometry schools has to contact OET and say, we've asked the student to take the test again. But when it starts getting more than 3 times, it starts being a concern about ability to do well on standardized tests. And national boards are standardized tests. So that's one of the factors with that.
Yeah. Actually, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
A lot of sense. Does anyone else have any questions or anything? Awesome. Well, we just want to thank you so much, Sandy, for coming and hanging out with us. It was super cool. Really enjoyed it. Yeah. And I
Well,
guess
I enjoyed it too.
Erin always does this part, so I get all, I'm not sure what to say.
Well, hopefully next year